Welcome to another episode on our channel. We are continuing on from our last episode where we showed you a 3D print, resin print of Grogu, the child. Whoever did the model did a fantastic job. The unfortunate thing, we'll talk about that in a bit, but we chose Grogu because I had a couple of Grogus from Hallmark where I took eye hooks out of these ornaments that are supposed to be on Christmas trees. It had eye hooks and ribbons so you could put it on a Christmas tree. I just took the eye hook out, filled up the hole, painted it. Same thing to this one. Took the eye hook out, filled up the hole and painted it. You can't tell. It really looks good as 3D models, especially next to my lion. But anyway, my husband did this one. This came out in 12 pieces. They're actually hanging together because I hot glued them together, but you can tell there are some issues with this. The person who made the model, again, made a great model, right?
A very good model.
Yeah, but used the automatic feature of Chitubox to put structural supports on it. What did he or she do wrong?
Use automatic supports to put structural supports on it.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that, but yeah.
Pretty much.
Put on two, the automatic feature
chose a high density of supports. Chose probably, instead of light supports, just all the way through it, chose at least medium. There's 3 levels: light, medium, and heavy. These are probably medium. Were probably medium. Cranked up the density.
Tons of them.
Hit hit the button.
And they automatically, it went through and put in the supports.
Yep.
Tons of supports that
way too many supports
needed. Hundreds down here, probably hundreds underneath the baby, what I call the baby carriage, which I think it's really called the hover pram.
Yeah, hover pram. This part down here, you can see it's like, I don't know, it's like a file. A rasp, wood rasp.
If you can feel it, if you could literally feel it, you could feel all the bumps on this thing. There are bumps on the side. There are bumps all over the thing.
Yeah, but the thing is the density is just, there were so many supports. And if you can see that, I don't know if they can, it's kind of shiny. Each one of those, I don't know what you want to call them, but in irregular textures, that's the remnants of a support, and there were so many it was almost like a solid support, a one piece. You should just put it flat on the plate.
Okay, so the big thing is, from what I'm learning from him, is that when you put a support on a model, it should just kiss it slightly with the point. Just kiss it slightly with the point.
The model comes up and then narrows to a tip. Mm-hmm. You can choose to have it narrow to a tip.
Kiss it. And
you can adjust how big that tip is, but you want the tip to touch the model where it starts to print at that particular point.
So you don't want it like this.
You don't want it like that, because you then have all that support head.
That becomes part of the model.
It's part of the model now, just like it was designed to be.
And you're going to have to do a lot of work to get that.
Well, yeah, good luck with that.
Sandpaper, and that's a waste of your time and energy.
Yeah, so, it's kind of like taking an aluminum pop can and squeezing it and then trying to
undo it.
You can sort of kind of undo it.
I don't understand the analogy, but that's okay. It should just slightly kiss the model. Easy to break off, supports it just fine, but doesn't make it into a crushed pop can. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
The pop cans are wrinkled once you squish them, right?
Right.
Try to unwrinkle them.
You can't.
You can't. Good luck with that, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Same here. Good luck with.
But they're not crushed. They're they're like bumps. They're not crinkled in. Anyway, okay, we'll move on. Well, our brains just think so differently. I don't know. You gotta use my language. Okay, stop that. I saw that. Okay, but it is cute. Look at it, how adorable this thing is with the butterfly on its fingers. So my husband decided to do his own version.
I scaled it up so that it
It's
was
more the size.
more that size.
See. Looks pretty good, actually. Yeah. I think really good. Ooh, wait.
And I think in the previous episode I mentioned digital calipers. I think $30 get you a fairly decent pair. So I measured the distance between Grogu's ears here, and I don't know which model. I know that's not perfect because the ears are back on this one, but they were 55 millimeters, so I scaled the whole thing accordingly. I still think it's just a little bit bigger,
I like it.
but not
I
much.
love it. The only thing that apparently came out poorly was the child,
Yeah.
the C.
The C and this thing here, it's like a little shelf. It didn't quite.
Didn't quite.
I was too conservative with supports, so that's my bad.
So the only problem with this was the word child. The C came out bad.
And it's an easy fix and then a reprint. But
Okay.
and
I trust him.
this is not a solid piece. In the slicer software, Chitubox, and Lychee does the same thing. Rather than printing this thing as a solid piece of resin, I'm not sure my tank even holds that much if it was a solid piece. But anyway, I hollowed it out so the walls are 2 millimeters.
So how much did this cost?
$2.
Okay. $2.
$2.
And it's not overly heavy, right? So
No.
it had drain holes or
Yeah, the head was a solid piece.
okay.
I think one other piece may have been solid. Certainly the head, of course, the butterfly, but the others were, of course, the little hood thing here. That's too thin to worry about taking up a lot of resin.
Okay.
But I think the rest of it was
carriage
hollowed
itself,
with drain holes.
Oh, so it came with drain holes.
Yeah, but after I used them, I thought these drain holes should have been bigger because it was.
So did you make them bigger here? The drain holes? Oh, it's one big drain hole.
Yeah.
Woo.
I prefer, and there just wasn't a way to do it, having another hole so that air doesn't hold it. It's like you touch the end of the straw, and it just flows better if there's 2 holes.
I don't understand that, but that's okay. I don't need to understand it. It has one hole, so it's lighter because the resin that went into formulating this actual print was able to drain out. So
Yeah, just a
very
little residue.
much. So it doesn't weigh very much.
No, the walls are 2 millimeters thick, just like I did with the land.
Okay, so so this was $2, you said?
Mm-hmm.
And how much was it to print this one?
$6.
$6. Okay.
And this was a 2.5 hour print, and this was an 8 hour and 30-minute print.
So it's not quite level.
No, because this rounded thing here, part of the child logo, it's touching, so it doesn't allow it.
So is there a way to adjust that or not really?
Yeah, actually I could. Well, not in Chitubox, but I could bring it into Lightwave and raise it up. I think, I should be able to.
Okay.
Raise it up enough so it
or
sits.
If you're good at just putting something else underneath, like little felt here, you could balance it out very nice.
Piece of black felt or whatever, round piece.
But it does move a little bit, so it's not quite as level as you would hope it would be, but it's a perfectly good model the way it came out with the adjustments you made. You just need to make a few more adjustments so that the C...
I need to be more aggressive with the support for the letter C for
C?
child, and as well as this kind of like a shelf frame
Okay.
thing here over the word.
Okay. But everything else is pretty good? Or
No, I did make one boo-boo on the finger over here.
I think with the finger, a support kind of
Yeah, I don't
laid against it.
know if that was my error or during the print process the support broke free, which does happen occasionally, and just decided it wanted to lay itself against the model and continue printing on its merry way.
But for $6, even with some of the challenges, tiny ones like the C and the kind of the extra elongated finger because the support got stuck to the ball that the child is holding. Other than these few
That was it.
errors,
Yeah.
it's really actually
This
quite
one's questionable.
good.
This one's definitely on me. I wasn't aggressive enough with the supports.
But it's one piece, and there's ups and downs for that. One piece, you don't get any potential, spots where it has to go together. It has to go together very nicely. You can see the space here with this one and the space in the back.
Oh.
You don't have to worry about any of that.
Did you notice this is now smooth rather than striated like this one?
Yeah, I do notice that. We'll get some close-ups in a bit. So this has some advantages in that respect. With painting it, if you're not going to do it in one color with a wash, that's going to be a little bit more difficult to paint compared to the one in pieces. You're going to have to be a little more careful when you paint this one so that the paint doesn't run into the coat that the child is wearing, and vice versa. The coat paint doesn't run into the blanket paint that he's standing on.
Not to mention the butterfly. Good
And the
luck with that.
butterfly. Yeah.
In terms of you got that tiny, tiny little brush, it's going to take you a while, I believe.
Yeah. But if you're going to do it with one color in a wash, it's going to come out just fine. So a one piece may be advantageous to that, or you could take your chances with multiple pieces and just make sure that the structural supports are placed where they need to be, as few as possible, slightly kissing the model in places where it needs support.
And if you can help it, try to position the model where it does not need supports inside either it's like a mortise and tenon joint. Mm-hmm. The thingy that sticks out as opposed to the hole that the thingy goes into. Try to keep the supports away from both of those.
I think I know more than him now.
What do you call mud flaps, dear?
I call mud flaps flappers. So I think the key is just to make structural support so it's just kissing the model
as
slightly,
opposed to
right?
And good.
The fewer the structural supports, the better, because the less sanding you'll have to do. If it leaves a little raised bump in its place. But if you're careful enough and you're conscientious enough and you're intelligent enough, you should be able to avoid some of that hard work of sandpapering it down.
400 grit sandpaper or finer. The larger the number, the finer the sandpaper. Mm-hmm. Did we mention this was a vertical print?
You printed from this way?
This is the build plate.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the first thing that got printed.
So it took longer.
Yeah, it took longer.
We talked about that last time. If you do it at an angle, there are fewer slices, and so it'll take less time to print. So how long did this take to print?
8.5 hours.
8.5 hours.
Yep.
Okay. But this is something that you hit the start button and you walk away from. And you come back and hopefully it looks really good.
Oh, another thing about resin printing, it is December 20. Mm-hmm. Resin has to be kept at a certain temperature in order to...
So what's the ideal temperature for resin? Does it depend on the resin?
It depends on the resin. So look at the manufacturer's spreadsheet. They'll tell you. This is 3D Resin Solutions Evolution.
Okay.
And I like to print at least 80 to 85 degrees.
So it tells you what temperature.
Yeah, but it's December, and even here in Southern California, I have a radiant heater with foam insulation over my printer so I can keep it warm. Can you imagine doing this back home in the Midwest in a garage, unheated? Nice thought. Oh.
Anyway, so how am I doing in terms of understanding the process?
Not bad considering.
I knew I wouldn't get a complete compliment there, but
No, you're doing well.
I think I'm doing quite well, actually, coming from a novice to actually asking him intelligent questions where he has to struggle to provide some intelligent answers.
I prefer to think as being thoughtful and thorough.
Okay, reflective,
and precise,
meaningful answers.
Giving
do take
them
more
good
time.
answers.
Okay, all right.
You, I can just blow off and tell you, and you'll believe it.
I don't know. Sometimes it's examples. They don't make any sense to me. But anyway, I am picking up on if we can summarize, right?
Summarize.
Let's summarize and wind things down.
Yes.
So, the advantage of doing it in pieces, painting. It'll be easier to paint in pieces. You just need to make sure whichever way you're doing it, your structural supports are strategically placed in ways where you have the minimum number and they're slightly kissing
at an almost
at
the right
point,
angle, or maybe
at a point.
I don't know, no more than a 45-degree angle.
Okay. All right.
Downside is that if you print in pieces, not only aesthetically can it be damaged, but if something goes wrong and the joints no longer match because you didn't have the supports in the right place, now it's ugly and it won't go together.
Yeah, I mean, this thing is definitely not going together in certain places, but that I think is a feature of using the automatic
without question. Yeah, just
for Chitubox to put the
it's simply the edge
place.
didn't print. I mean, so it printed a millimeter, after it should have printed.
So if somebody could have done this intelligently, we probably wouldn't see these cracks.
It'd be very minimal.
It would be easier,
especially after a little sanding and a little primer if you need it. Automotive primer. You don't want to do too much of that though, because you start losing detail. Because automotive primer will fill cracks. Okay. Scratches.
So is there anything else they need to know about this part?
About this part? No. Upside is that you get a nice clean print if you do everything right.
That looks great. And you'll see it when we get close-ups in just a second. Anything else they need to know?
Downside is I wouldn't have the patience to paint this thing. I mean, just straight up paint it, not wash it.
As one color and a wash, I'm good to go.
Yeah, okay.
But if you have to paint, the downside
to make it look like this.
Yeah, to ensure that the blanket paint doesn't run into the coat paint, vice versa. The butterfly paint doesn't run into the hand. That's going to take a steady hand and patience.
We need to learn to airbrush.
I don't know.
Because we use a lot of spray paint. That's one of the consumables that you'll have to deal with if you paint your models is spray paint. And if you're doing figures for 1/6 scale like guns, you a lot of paint for a single gun.
Okay.
But anyway, we're deviating. We're supposed to be summarizing.
Okay, so summarizing, we did that.
Yep.
Now let's get some close-ups of just this one, or maybe both of them at the same time.
It's what do you think? I don't care.
What do you think? So they can remember what we showed them last time and show the improved version with the structural supports that you put in place instead of using the automatic feature. So I'll let him set up. Yeah, a one-piece model. I'll let him set up so he can get some close-ups of these two figures.
And I can go back on the other side of the camera where I belong. We'll be right back.
All right. Here's one last look at our figure of folk. No, okay. So we'll take a trip around the world with both our figures for comparison's sake. This is the one that came out of Chitubox with the automatic function of structural supports, and this is the one my husband did, strategically placing structural supports where it was needed. This is one piece, this is 12 pieces. I love the butterfly. And again, this is $2, this was $6. So you have a figure that could cost you perhaps, I don't know, maybe $125, $150 by the time you purchase it, especially if it's well painted. But $6 without paint. Not too bad though if you decided to do it in one color and wash. A little more challenging if you decided to paint it in different colors, but still, this is quite a deal. So there you go. 12 pieces, one piece. Here is one last look at our figure of focus. Here's one last look at our figures of focus. I hope you've liked what you've seen. If you have, consider giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. In the meantime, everyone, please have a great day.